that's Jenny. But that's not Jenny's dad. If she gets into that car, you may be looking at Jenny for the last time.
Melbourne, Australia. On August 22nd of 1987, two parents would be woken up at 4 in the morning to an unknown masked man armed with a knife and a gun, telling them he was only there for money and valuables, stating that no one would get hurt if they complied. He went on to demand for them to lie on their stomachs before tying their hands and feet and locking them in a wardrobe. Their then 7-year-old son would also be bound to his bed and left there, and their 11-year-old daughter, who was the only one left in the house, would come face to face with a monster who would her for hours before eating a meal at their home, cutting the phone lines, and vanishing without a trace. This monster would quickly become one of the most notorious predators to exist, a monster only known today as Mr. Cruel. And this family was just one of the many who fell victim to this evil. Hey guys, I just wanted to give a quick thank you to those of you who have supported the channel so far. It means a lot to me and it does help me stay motivated through some of the topics that we cover here. This video in specific was a very difficult one to make, and you will see why as we get into it. It will more than likely not stay monetized, as the topic we are talking about today is very extreme. So if you didn't take the content warning at the very beginning of this video seriously, this is your chance to exit the video now. But if you're staying, and if you're new here or haven't already, please like and subscribe. It would help out the channel a lot, and it would also keep you up to date with the rest of my content on the channel. Anyways, thank you for your support, thank you for watching, and let's get back to the video. It's not clear exactly when these attacks started, but as investigators believe the crimes could have started all the way back in 1985. We aren't too sure, however, as a string of disturbingly targeted home invasions were taking place within the Melbourne area. In 1988, another family would have a run-in with Mr. Cruel. December 26th of 1988, the Wills family had come back home around 10 p.m. from a family gathering for the holidays. John and Julie Wills would put their 4 daughters to bed, but it would not be until 4:30 a.m. that John Wills would turn off the lights for the day. At around 5:45 a.m., Mr. Cruel would break into the house of John and Julie Wills, breaking through their back door, bursting into the room, and making as much noise as possible, and turning on the lights. When Julie tried to scream for the kids to wake up and run, he put a gun up to John's head, stating, "You're not going to be a hero, are you?" He forced them onto their stomachs, tied them up with copper electrical wire, and demanded money, taking $35 from John's wallet before demanding to know where the phone was. He left them gagged and cut the wires to the phones. Sharon Wills was 10 years old at the time, laying on the top bunk of the beds with her 3 other sisters. She had woken up to the sound of her mother screaming and a man's voice. She sat there terrified, not knowing what to do, when she saw her bedroom door open and saw a man in a mask with a flashlight. He walked up to her, turned her over, and shone the flashlight into her eyes, asking her if she was awake. She pretended to be asleep for a moment, and he left, coming back shortly after and forcing her out of bed. He then went through her wardrobe, taking a piece of Sharon's clothes, including children's blue sandals, cream-colored panties, a knee-length nightgown, and a red tartan shirt, along with a tank top. After taking these items, he would lead her out of the house, only stopping to take John's brown and black checkered lumber jacket, telling Sharon to put it over her nightgown, and taking another shirt from the laundry basket to wrap the clothes he took. In total, he only stayed inside the house for around 8 minutes. He began to pick up Sharon and bring her to the back porch, in which she started to try and scream for help, getting ball-gagged in the process. Mr. Cruel told Sharon that he wasn't going to hurt her, that he would bring her back in the morning once he got his ransom from her parents. He blindfolded her, picked her up again, and put her on the floor of his car next to the passenger seat. After traveling for some time, the car would stop in a driveway. He carried her into a house, placing her on a bed, and replacing her blindfold with iPads that were secured by tape. Over the course of the next couple of hours, Sharon would be repeatedly made to shower and bathe before being leashed to a bed and multiple times throughout the day. At a point in the day, Mr. Cruel left, telling Sharon that he would be back. Once he left, she took off her pads and got a look at the room, seeing a wooden makeshift tripod and a camera. Once Mr. Cruel came back, he made her bathe again and left her chained to the bed for hours, before finally telling her to take one last shower, dressing her in the shirt he stole from her family's laundry basket, taping garbage bags around her, and carrying her to the car. He had trouble starting it, which he told Sharon, stolen cars don't always start right. Around 11:15 p.m., a white Commodore Vacationer sedan with 3 blue stripes along its side was driving with its lights off and almost had a head-on collision with another driver as it turned into another street. The driver of the Vacationer allegedly ducked his head and edged forward as an angry witness stopped next to him at a red light and tried to take a look into the car. The Vacationer then turned right and vanished into the next street, according to the witness. Eventually, Mr. Cruel stopped the car, lifting Sharon out and running along for a decent amount of distance, stopping every now and again to catch his breath. He would drop her off at the Bayswater High School, removing the iPads and the garbage bags, telling Sharon how to get to a nearby grocery store, and warned her not to look at him as he left. Around midnight, a woman would find Sharon standing on the corner of a street. Once approached, Sharon told the woman, "My name is Sharon Wills, and I was taken from my home early this morning. A man left me here and told me to ring home." The woman brought her to her house, gave her a drink, and called the police. According to the news reporters after this event, witnesses noticed a stalker in the area 6 weeks before the abduction took place, recording the home of the Wills family. He targeted the family months before ever committing the attack, meaning more than likely, he was stalking Sharon months before this took place. When interviewed by police, Sharon recalled hearing airplanes flying fairly low. She also believed that Mr. Cruel may have had a hairier chest and a mustache, or at least the early stages of beard growth. But this is about all we know from her account. A year and a half later, on July 3rd of 1990, at 7:50 p.m., Brian Linus and his wife, Rosemary Linus, were picked up by friends to attend a farewell party, as it was the last week of term for the winter holidays before the Linus family was due to return to the UK, leaving their rented home at 10 Monmouth Avenue. Due to this, they left both their 13-year-old and 15-year-old daughters at home. The girls, being home alone, decided to order pizza for the night, the pizza arriving around 10:05 p.m. The girls would go to sleep shortly after, around 11 p.m., shutting off the lights. 20 minutes later, a man wearing gloves and a dark green balaclava with white stitching around the eyes and mouth would force open a window in the parents' vacant bedroom, making his way to the room the girls were sleeping in. He went straight for Nicola Linus, the 13-year-old, waking her up by tapping a knife onto her forehead, telling her, "See this? This is a really sharp knife." This ended up waking up Fiona, Nicola's 15-year-old sister, as well. He made the girls search their parents' bedroom for cash, holding them at gunpoint, finding $4,000 in traveler's checks, which were a popular cash alternative for international travel until the rise of credit and debit cards. He did not take these, however. As per his last burglary, he had the girls lie face down on their parents' beds and hogtied Fiona with wire, taking Nicola to the kitchen, where he searched the purse of Rosemary, taking her driver's license, Medicare card, and credit card, before cutting the phone line within the house. He would take Nicola back to her room, steal some of her clothes, and get her dressed in a school blazer. He brought her back to her parents' room and asked both the girls about their father's employment, telling the girls that he is going to be holding Nicola for ransom of $25,000 before taking Nicola and stealing the family car, leaving the house around 11:47 p.m. According to Nicola, he drove north out of the driveway and west along Mont Albert Road, stopping to put tape over her eyes and a balaclava over her head, telling her, "If you try to see, it'll be very dangerous for you." He would drive a bit before stopping the car, turning it off, and getting out with Nicola to enter a waiting vehicle, more than likely the vacationer he used in his previous getaway, using this car to drive the rest of the way. The drive lasted almost an hour long with very few stops, as if on a freeway. This piece of information became pivotal later down the line through the investigation, as depending on how far Mr. Cruel was driving in between his escapades, and if he was on a freeway or not, the investigators would have a better understanding of where he might be taking all of his victims. As with his last, he made Nicola bathe and brush her teeth, leashing her to a bed. I'll spare you the rest of the details, as what happened is what you would expect from our previous account. But her ordeal lasted around 50 hours before letting her go, where she would then call the police and her father. Many of the details both her and her sister recalled were a bit different from Sharon's and her parents' account. The girls told the investigators that he had a deep, gruffly Australian accent, sounding almost uneducated, saying words and slurs, whereas Sharon and her parents recounted that he had no discernible accent to them at all, as if just a simple Australian native. The Linus girls both gave differing heights of Mr. Cruel. He might be 182 centimeters, whereas Nicola stated he would have been closer to 170 centimeters. Both of them said he was well built, with a slight beer belly. According to Nicola, after the first shower, Mr. Cruel would lead her to the bed, leash her, turn off the radio that was on to block out the noise, and fall asleep next to her, allowing her to get a better description of the man. Nicola stated he didn't smell like either cigarettes or beer. His arms were solid, with rough and hairy hands, having finer hair on his chest and on his arms. She was awake the entire time, not hearing anything until early morning when she heard 9 different jets pass over from her right to her left, then turning about 90 degrees, allowing investigators to put together a possible flight schedule for that day. On top of this, the fact that she heard nothing else until the flight started meant that wherever this was, it wasn't near any major roads or highways. During the final day of her containment, Mr. Cruel acted a bit strange, acting as if there was someone else, a friend of his, involved and there, speaking as if he was speaking to someone else despite not getting an answer back. He also told Nicola a lot of seemingly random things. He made a point to tell her when he was putting food away and told her that he was enjoying the stories about his crimes being reported and the links between his crimes and others within the area. He was watching and stated he had been since the Wills kidnapping 18 months ago, even asking Nicola if she thought she was worth $25,000. When he finally got ready to drop her off, he wrapped her up, put her in her family's car, and drove for about an hour. When he finally stopped, he apparently walked with her for 5 minutes in plain sight of any possible passers-by without fear of being caught. Once they fully stopped, he started to walk away before suddenly turning around and saying that this drop-off is no good, and began to walk with Nicola for a little longer, before eventually leaving her in the bushes in front of an SEC substation. With Nicola, for some reason, he seemed to act more sporadic, less planned, and a lot more on edge than his previous victims. We have no idea why he did most of what he did in Nicola's recounting, but it did paint more of a picture of who he might be. Personally, I think Mr. Cruel was afraid of the fact that Nicola was a bit older than his last victim, and due to that may have been able to more easily identify him without seeing his face, which is why he put on an accent and tried to pretend there was someone else involved. He may have been trying to throw off the police and investigators when they inevitably questioned Nicola. After this event, Mr. Cruel would again go into hiding and lay low until what was to be his final recorded victim. Saturday, April 13th, 1991. 13-year-old Carmen Chan spent the day going through tennis lessons, having lunch with her mother, and studying alone at the library. That afternoon, friends of Chan picked up Carmen and her sisters, Carly, age 9, and Karen, age 7, taking them to the family restaurant, where they had dinner with their mother before being taken home by a restaurant employee, where their father was waiting for them. At around 7 to 7:30 p.m., their father would end up leaving for work, leaving the girls and leaving Carmen to babysit them. While Carmen and her sisters read stories and watched TV, a man in a green-gray tracksuit and a brown balaclava spray-painted the family car with the words "Payback, Asian drug dealer," more and more to come. He would break through a living room window by cutting off the wired screen and forcing the window open. Around 8:40 p.m. to 9 p.m., when Carmen and her sister entered the kitchen to get some snacks, he made his presence known, brandished his knife, and told them, "Go to the room," before grabbing them by the hair and forcing them into Carmen's room, finding Karen, the youngest, hiding behind the door. He would bind and gag the youngest, shutting them in a cupboard, holding Carmen by the hair, and pushing the bed up against the cupboard to ensure they wouldn't come out. They heard their sister say, "Don't do that," before Mr. Cruel came back one final time and asked them, "Are you okay?" vanishing afterwards. This would be the last time anyone would see Carmen Chan alive. On April 9th of 1992, a human skull was found in a landfill next to an electrical substation. Dental records ran on the skull confirmed that it was, in fact, Carmen. She was shot in the back of her head 3 times. Investigators believe that at some point during her kidnapping, it may be possible that there was a fight that broke out between them, in which Carmen may have taken off her blindfold and saw Mr. Cruel's face. Around 11 p.m. on the day of her disappearance, a witness claims he heard a gunshot. When he looked around for it, he saw a man wearing overalls and a jacket with a gun in the air. This would be the last known victim of Mr. Cruel, with many more victims to be suspected as his doing, but fully unconfirmed. To this day, we know very little about him, and investigations have been both on and off over the last 20 years. During Mr. Cruel's crime spree, a task force was formed around him, and Operation Spectrum was born. During the operation's lifespan, over 27,000 people were interviewed to get any hope of who may be Mr. Cruel. Within this list were 150 people who were on a secret and illegal mail order list for child, and only 32 of all of them were not able to be eliminated. Out of these 32, 7 were nominated by the FBI as men who would be capable of committing such acts. But this list of suspects would not be made public until 2016. This would be due to the journalist Keith Moore revealing the existence of the Sierra Files, a Victoria police dossier on the top 7 suspects who couldn't be eliminated by Operation Spectrum or the FBI. The main suspect of the 7 was a man by the name of Dr. Brian Allen Eckner, who admitted to the journalist during an interview with him that he was, in fact, the prime suspect. Elkner was a high school and university teacher, moving to Hampton to teach French literature at the University of Melbourne in 1972. During this time, through 1972 to 1974, he attacked and assaulted 6 girls within their own homes, 5 of them being teenagers, and 1 of them being a young married woman. He did this in an almost similar fashion to Mr. Cruel. He would tie them up and threaten them with a knife. He was found guilty on the charge of rape and was jailed for 10 years in 1974, getting out in 1979 and moving back to Hampton, where 2 of Mr. Cruel's crimes took place in 1985. Once investigators searched his home, they found a knife and a balaclava stashed within his roof. He was questioned for almost 12 hours before letting him go, as it got nowhere. And he had an alibi, stating that he was at a wedding during one of Mr. Cruel's attacks. None of the other 6 suspects have been named, keeping their identities hidden for multiple reasons. Not much outside of careers and general area of where the suspects were living during the time of the attacks is known to the public as of right now. Since the 2016 leak, there have been more possible suspects brought to light, but they are still nothing more than suspects. One of the prime suspects to come out since then happened in a 2020 true crime podcast with retired homicide detective Ron Idles, in which he told the host that his best guess on who Mr. Cruel actually was a man by the name of Norman Leung Lee, a well-known and notorious career criminal.
In the right age bracket. He was somebody who was well known to police, somebody who from time to time cross-dressed, and at the time this is the suspect, was living in Eltham, and the person who was a well-known criminal who he didn't have to tell me, right? So you got a situation, I've been to see him about another matter, and I'm getting in the car to drive away, and he came out and he said, "Ron, I've got to tell you something."
According to Ron, another criminal who was dying of cancer, told him during an investigation in 2003 that Mr. Cruel owned a home that was under the flight path described by Nicola, with a very similar layout to the one described by the victims, and was already dead. On April 31st of 2022, journalist Andrew Rule found out who the informant of Detective Ron Idles was, a man by the name of Alfred Gay, who would go on to tell Detective Ron that Lee owned multiple schoolgirl outfits and even confessed to the murder of Carmen Chan. When this information was passed on to the police, they showed a picture of Lee to Phyllis Chan, but we don't know if this went anywhere after, because she could not recognize the man in the photo. Lee would die in a gunfight with the police in 1992 after a botched robbery, only 3 months after the death of Carmen Chan. The only evidence against Lee being Mr. Cruel is that when the residence in question was looked at further, it turned out that the garage of Lee's home did not match the description of any of the victims. Mr. Cruel was extremely meticulous. He became infamous for never leaving any forensic trace, no DNA, no nothing, which made him almost a ghost, leading investigators to another theory that he may have been a police officer or a forensics expert, but again, this led nowhere. To this day, the police are not entirely sure who Mr. Cruel might be, but they do believe that he is alive, in hiding somewhere, and stopped his crimes after the death of Carmen. They also believe that he may still have both photographic and video evidence of his crimes. More than likely, he's now online, and as of 2016, $1 million bounty for any information on Mr. Cruel has never been claimed. We aren't sure if he is out there or not, and honestly, it's terrifying to think that he might still be out there in general. Hopefully one day more clues are found or some new piece of evidence appears, but until then we just have to wait and hope that one of the darkest mysteries I've come across gets put to bed. Mr. Cruel could be anyone, and I think that is the more terrifying part of this story. No one knows his face, and the only person that is believed to have seen his face has been dead for some time. I'm sorry that this video ends this way, and I wish I could have found more out on what happened here, but there really isn't a lot of information. But if you like the channel and enjoy the content either way, please remember to subscribe and like. Anyways, thank you for watching and have a good night.